It's not as easy as one may think. It's not as easy as one may hope. This whole metaverse concept is very, very complex and very complicated to kind of break down all in one bite. So, in order to understand what this metaverse is, we're going to have to do some dictionary digging to the best of our ability. Hello, folks. Man, it is so good to be back with you all today. I am sorry for my unexcused absence. Well, I guess you can call it excused in this case because, I don't know, I just had a lot of school stuff happening. I just got settled into my new dorm room for my final semester in college, so now that that's taken care of and now that I'm used to my new set of classes for the semester, I can finally get back with you all for a little bit. And I know I haven't been, active these past few weeks, almost a month now, but, I would like to apologize for that once again. I know the last time I was here, it was probably back in the end of July, but here we are once again, rejoiced and rejoined. And boy, do I have some news to share with you all about my own experiences. So, my summer this year was actually pretty peaceful, and it was spectacular because I went inside one of the most interesting places that I would never imagine myself being in. I guess you can say I went on a little vacation. Not a type of vacation where, you see the Eiffel Tower in France or the Statue of Liberty in New York or, the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles, California. But I did, however, get a chance to go on vacation in this little world called the Metaverse. Yep, you heard me. I went into this virtual world, the Metaverse. So this summer on July 14th, I had the option to buy a Meta Quest 2, which is a VR headset made by Facebook, the company. Well, now they're called Meta. It was made by Oculus at first. Oculus used to be this old company until they got bought out by Facebook, now Meta, thanks to Mark Zuckerberg. And so he kind of rebranded their items as, okay, instead of it calling the Oculus Quest, we're going to call it the Meta Quest, because meta, meaning metaverse, is basically the future that we are stepping into. Yeah, this is the future, guys. This is literally our future. Everything's going to be mostly online now. And, it's crazy. I've been hearing that, with all this cryptocurrency going on right now, with all these electronic currencies happening and Bitcoin and all these, different aesthetics that are happening online, I've heard reports where people have been speculating within the next maybe 20 to 30 years, all of our money will be electronic. They're probably going to do away with paper money. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually going to come true or not, but from the direction where we're heading in right now, I believe it. The internet is a very interesting place, and it has a lot of interesting things on it that people haven't really seen yet. I feel like stepping into the metaverse is kind of like going beyond that frontier of, the earth, going beyond and stepping out of that horizon. It's funny I said the word horizon because there's an app within the MetaQuest called Horizon Worlds, which was basically one of the main worlds that I spent my time in this summer. So Horizon Worlds it's an app by Meta. You can go into this app, and it's basically an app that consists of these different virtual worlds, all created by different users from around the globe. And you can visit these worlds and interact with people within these worlds. And it would be almost as if you were actually there with those people, but instead of being there physically, you're with them online. And you're with them through the use of these virtual avatars that you create. So, when I used my avatar to get into these worlds, I actually talked to real life people. You have to keep in mind, like, yes, these are real life people wearing headsets in a virtual world. These are real people with real families, real jobs, real kids or whatever, these are real life people. But it seems like even though we're not around each other physically, our avatars are around each other physically. And so within Horizon Worlds, you can also create your own world as a user. You can create your own world and you can invite people into that world. You can also invite friends and followers and, just bring as many people as you can. It's a very unique place made by Facebook. And there are some kinks that, could be worked upon, to make it better or whatnot. But as far as what I've experienced thus far, Horizon's world is a very big place. It's not just one world. You have multiple worlds kind of converging into this one big, like I said, metaverse. And so you're thinking, how did the metaverse even come to be in the first place? How did we get this far? It's 2022. When did metaverse become a thing? Well, it's not as easy as one may think. It's not as easy as one may hope. This whole metaverse concept is very, very complex and very complicated to kind of break down all in one bite. So in order to understand what this metaverse is, we're going to have to do some dictionary digging to the best of our ability. So according to, the internet, the metaverse is a hypothetical iteration of the internet as a single, universal, and immersive virtual world that is facilitated by the use of virtual reality and augmented reality headsets. So basically, it's this, in simpler terms, it's this idea that within this virtual universe, anybody that joins this virtual universe, basically, we're all connected together within that same space. So you have all these different virtual avatars that we create in these headsets, and we can come together as one particular population. So it's almost as if we are this one big universe. Like all these people from different parts of the real world are coming in to this one virtual space, and we're all sharing that same space at the same time. Well, technically different times because, like I said, it's different people from different parts of the world, and we all have different time zones. But you know what I'm saying. Like, even though we're entering this space at different physical times, we are sharing that same space, if that makes sense. Like, we're all connecting together simultaneously in one virtual setting. So we're all sharing that same universe together. And I like that idea of like having a virtual shared universe, not to sound cinematic or anything, not to sound like the MCU or whatnot, but you have all these different people, just sharing this one space, which is really, fantastic. It's a very applaudable tool. It's a very applaudable endeavor to explore. And so the term metaverse, you're probably wondering, like, when did this term come about? When did we actually bring this term into fruition? Well, according to the internet, it originated in the 1992 science fiction novel Snow Crash as a portmanteau of meta and universe. So basically, the metaverse. I think meta kind of means like broad, or it means like beyond or whatnot, like basically going beyond the norm, So this idea of having a metaverse, so you're going beyond our universe and you're stepping into a more virtual representation of the life that we're already living. It's a very broad term and it's a very complex term. Now, don't confuse this with multiverse, which consists of multiple universes that could be parallel, that could be separate, but multiple universes conjoined together. It's very easy to confuse metaverse with multiverse because, like I was saying earlier, in the app Horizon Worlds, you have all these different worlds together, shared within that one app. It may sound like a multiverse, but it's not. It's just one big virtual space where everybody can come in and kind of like explore different avenues and explore different things within that space. So think of meta as like an umbrella term. Metaverse is an umbrella term for all these different places that we can go within that particular universe. You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, there are other metaverse apps on the MetaQuest that I've explored. You also have what is called AltSpace VR. And I kind of like AltSpace a little better than Horizon Worlds because I feel like there's more you can kind of do within that space as opposed to Horizon Worlds. I think in AltSpace you can even fly and float around in the sky. You can also kind of, like Horizon Worlds, you can build your own world as well. And you can also go to different stores that people, program within the app. So AltSpace, it's another social gathering app where you can connect with people in different spaces, but all share that same virtual space within the app, if that makes any sense. And then you have other apps like Rec Room, which is also a mobile app in addition to VR. You also have Big Screen. Big Screen is like my favorite of the MetaQuest app. Big Screen is basically a virtual world where you can cinematically watch movies with other people at the same time, despite the fact that you all are not sharing the same physical space in the real world, but your avatars are sharing the same space in the virtual world. So basically, your avatar can be sitting right next to another person's avatar in a movie theater, in a virtual movie theater, and people play movies from the real world, from their computers, onto this big virtual screen, and everyone can sit down together and play and watch movies just like that, just as if you were actually sitting in a real theater. And whatever movies are playing, the walls in the virtual theater, you can see the lights being reflected from the screen. So if a screen moves from a very well-lit scene to a dark scene, then the walls will reflect that. You know what I'm saying? It reflects the light patterns. And I think that's a really cool feature to have. And you can also move between seats. You can also draw in the world. You can draw in the open space, in the open area and whatnot. You can also hang out in the lobby where dozens of people tend to hang out with, a bunch of people in the lobby. So yeah, there's plenty to do within this space. You know what I'm saying? Now, I've had the pleasure of watching many films within this virtual app. I've watched Forrest Gump in theaters. I watched Spider-Man No Way Home in this virtual theater. I watched basically any movie they put on, I've even watched the new Scream movie in this virtual space. And sometimes, depending on who's playing what from what device, the quality is amazing. It can be pixelated at times, but majority of the times, the quality is actually not that bad. Like, the quality is actually pretty decent for a virtual screen, and you're watching it in your VR headset, and the sound already sounds like you're in the theater. So you have that little spatial audio where if someone's talking, like if your avatar is sitting next to you and they're talking, the left side of your headset will come on as if someone's actually sitting next to you in the real world. Now, how cool is that? That's fantastic. That is amazing. I've never encountered any form of technology of that sort. It's like we are stepping beyond the horizons that have been bestowed upon us from earlier times. You know, we're expanding our niches a little bit more, and that's what I like about these virtual worlds. It allows for us to me, I see the metaverse as like a form of escape. Sort of like Ready Player One. I mean, that's kind of what this whole metaverse concept basically inspired, or basically that movie and the book are probably the best ways to explain this whole metaverse concept. If you want to know more about it, just watch that movie and read the book. Literally, it dealt with a major character who basically was living in this slum-like town or slum-like city, and basically to escape his hardships of his real life, he would step into this virtual world called the Oasis. Basically, it's like the metaverse. And so I feel like, yeah, that's how I felt like. I felt like it was a form of escape. Basically, you're escaping the pain and the hardships of your real life, and you're stepping into a virtual world where you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about, COVID in the metaverse. You don't have to worry about people dying, in the metaverse or whatever. You just go in, you meet people, you talk, you play, you laugh, you watch movies, I guess you can date in there too. I've seen YouTube videos where people have actually went on dates in the metaverse. So I think that's yeah. There's a whole lot you can do. I'll just say that. But with the pros, there are always cons to everything. So, oh boy, let me get into this while I can. So I talked about all the positive aspects and the, positives of being in the metaverse. Now let's flip the coin and talk about the criticisms and the cons and the negatives or whatnot. So, as you all know, like I said, the metaverse is a broad term and it's a broad place. It's open to a lot of people from different parts of the globe. And so you have to go into this virtual space with an open mind. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't go in there to bully someone. You shouldn't go in there to judge people before you get to know them. Because, like I said, these are real people hiding behind virtual characters like avatars. You know what I'm saying? So you just never know what someone is going through in real life. You just never know what someone is dealing with in the real world. That's why people go to the virtual world, because like I said earlier, it's a form of escape. But however, I do feel like it can be a problem at times if you spend too much time in this virtual world, because I've seen a YouTube video where there's literally a man who lives in the metaverse 24/7. He does not take off his headset. He does not go to the bathroom. Well, he's created a system in his room to where he can efficiently use the restroom while he has his headset on in his room. Trust me, I've seen the video. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. But, all right, well, like I said, I think sometimes, the metaverse is almost like social media, where if we become too addicted to it, we become immersed into it and we can't seem to let it go, or we can't seem to put it down. It's hard to let it go. It's hard to put it down. It's hard to focus our attention on other things. And so if we're not careful, we will become so immersed into that virtual space to where our minds are going to start to convert into that space, and we start to become inhabitants of it. Basically, what I'm saying is, once we go in, once we spend too much time in it, we're not going to want to leave. And you kind of have to space out how much time you actually wear your headset and how much time you actually enter these virtual spaces. Because like I said, it can be a little bit addicting at times. It can overtake you if you let it. It's sort of like Venom, the symbiote from, the Spider-Man comics and whatever or whatnot. And so that symbiote took control of Peter Parker and Eddie Brock and all these different hosts who wore the symbiote, and it made them do some evil things. So I think that's what the metaverse sometimes can do. Not necessarily make you do evil things, but kind of make you do things that, I don't know, things you wouldn't normally do in the real world, So I would advise everybody, if you're going to step into these virtual spaces, just have an open mind of, okay, it's a good space to be in. It's a good space to visit, but don't live in it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to live in the metaverse because, how are you going to eat? Because like I said, we are real life people. We're just putting on headsets in the virtual world, but we are real life people. We have bills. We have food that we have to eat. We have water that we have to drink. We have to take showers. We have to go to work. We have to go to all these different places. We have lives outside of these virtual spaces. Your avatar in the virtual world is different from your real body in the real world. Do not confuse the two. They are totally different things. You know what I'm saying? And the metaverse, it can be like a matrix at times because people really think that, oh, I wish the real world was like this, or, oh, I wish, we could stay in this virtual world forever. And you have to realize that's just not the reality that we live in. I mean, yes, it's good to escape. Yes, it's good to find solace and, tranquility in these spaces. But you have to wake up in reality at some point and realize that, hey, at some point I got to take this off because, I have class in the morning, or, oh, I got to go to work. I can't be glued to a Horizon Worlds or alt space all night long. It's just not possible. And there are people, like I said, that live in it, that live in these spaces. There are people that have houses in the metaverse. There are people that make money in the real world from being in the metaverse. Did you know that? People are building worlds for other people and they're charging them money. People are starting businesses in the metaverse that have an impact on them in the real world. That's crazy. That is mind-blowing. But like I said, you can't let that virtual space overtake your trials and tribulations and all of your real life situations. You know what I'm saying? You can't let it overcome you. At some point, you have to step out of the oasis for a minute. You have to take a breather. And another con with the metaverse is that I heard some news reports one time back in I think October or November last year or something like that, where there was a female user in the metaverse where I think in Horizon Worlds, she was groped by a group of men. Like their avatars groped her avatar. And because of this, Facebook added a new feature called Safe Zone. Basically, Safe Zone is this feature in Horizon Worlds where you can step out of that virtual reality in a sense where you're in your own personal bubble. Like literally, you're in this safe little bubble to where there's nobody around. There's no one there to bother you. There's no one there to talk to you. It's just your own little utopia. And you can stay in this zone for as long as you want. And when you're ready to go out of that zone, all you have to do is just press a little button, get out of the zone, and it takes you right back to where you left off. Like whichever world you were in, it'll take you right back to that world in that given moment. So yeah, because that woman's avatar was groped and molested and harassed, they basically made the safe zone. And so people think that, oh, because we're in a virtual space, because I'm not doing this in real life, I can get away with it in the virtual world. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to, touch this person. I'm going to bully that person. I'm going to pick a fight and do this and do that and do all these crazy things. But you have to realize, like I said, like I keep saying, like I keep reiterating, these are real life people inhabiting these virtual spaces. So you want to have this sort of etiquette to where you can treat it as if you were actually physically in the presence of these people in the real world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people throw glass bottles at each other in the virtual spaces because they were getting into a fight over this girl or whatnot. And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, we're here to have fun. We're not here to do all that. Like the reason we're in these virtual spaces in the first place is to escape the hardships that we're facing in the real world. Those are things that people do in real life. But for you to bring that drama into the virtual space, it's like, come on, man. That's not why I joined here. That's not why I came here. I came here to get away from all that drama, not bring the drama with me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you just have to be mindful of where you are, even in the virtual world. Be mindful of your manners, be mindful of your surroundings. And boy, don't even get me started on the kids. That's another con of being in the metaverse. One thing that all these apps have in common is that there are a lot of kids on it. It's populated with primarily kids. You do have some adults, you do have older people on there too, but kids make up the majority of the population. And kids these nowadays, they can be really disrespectful, really foul-mouthed, have no manners. And that's how they act, Literally, when I was in the movie theater app, the big screen VR app, there were moments where kids would talk over the movie. Kids would cuss up a storm. Kids would, sing a song from the real world, and they would blast it through their speakers on purpose so we can hear it through their avatars. And you could hear what they were playing in the real world, and we're all just like, yo, kid, can you keep it down? Like, we're all just trying to watch the movie. Yeah, some kids in the virtual spaces can have no manners. They can be disrespectful, and I've heard kids cuss out adults in this virtual world. And it just baffles me that these parents, they're letting these kids get on these platforms and doing all these kind of things. Like, they're doing all these kind of, misconducts and, not having proper etiquette. And I'm just like, if you're not, disciplining them in the real world, how do you think they're going to act in the virtual world? You know what I'm saying? So I guess they think that, because it's a virtual world, they can just get away with anything and everything. And that's just not how it works. The virtual world is supposed to be a reflection of real life, but at the same time, it's supposed to help us escape from real life. And I know that sounds kind of contradicting. I told you, the metaverse, it's a complex terminology. You have this virtual world that is supposed to reflect reality. It's supposed to be a depiction of reality, but at the same time, we are entering these spaces to escape reality. And that's a very complex way to put it, but that's just how it's described. That's just how it is. And I think kids, they just don't realize, like, there are adults on these apps who will get them in line. If your parents from the real world aren't going to get you in line, there are other adults that will. And, you can mute them. You can mute people in these spaces. But some people, if you mute them, they still follow you around. And it's like, you can't get rid of them unless you go into a different world. But other than that, they can be really annoying at times. And that's not to say that, I hate kids or I'm bashing kids. I'm just saying certain kids just don't have, and I think the problem is they don't have enough guidance at home. They don't have enough attention, or they're not disciplined enough at home that they're entering these virtual spaces to escape the hardships that they're having in their home lives, in the real world. And you know what? I kind of feel like I'm not going to say it's valid, but it's understandable. You know what I'm saying? I understand why, I can kind of understand why certain kids act all carefree in these virtual spaces, because I guess they feel like in the real world, I mean, I don't know their situation. I can't judge somebody else's situation. You just never know what somebody's going through. But I think there's a problem at home that's not addressed. You know what I'm saying? So they're using these virtual spaces like other people as a form of escape. I've met an adult woman in the virtual world, and she said that she gets in this virtual space basically to meet other men because she doesn't get enough attention from her husband at home. And I'm like, wow, really? So you employ the use of being in the metaverse to kind of escape your home life and your home problems with your real husband in the real world. And she's like, yes, I use this as a way to cope. I use this as a way to escape my problems. And I'm like, wow, that's really deep, you know? But I bring her up to say that, yes, all of us, like all these people, we're in these virtual spaces, not just to have fun, but like I said, we're trying to escape the hardships of our real lives. I'm not saying my life is tragic. I'm not saying my life sucks. I'm not saying it's, any bad or anything. I'm also not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows. I'm not saying my life is great. I'm not saying my life is, a utopia. We're living in more of a dystopian society than a utopian society. But I do feel like that, stepping outside of reality for a minute, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with a little escapism or, trying to cross the other side of the horizon, like I was saying earlier. You know what I'm saying? There's more to life than just living within the four walls that have been built around you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to go out and explore a little more to get a better understanding of why we human beings are placed, here on this planet. Why are we here? And so I think the metaverse is a way to help us all connect better with each other. But at the same time, and this is going to lead into another con, I feel like the more time we spend within these virtual spaces, the less interactions we will have with each other in the real world. I feel like these virtual spaces, they're good for the moment, but are we going to employ this use of, getting into this virtual space for the rest of our lives? You know what I'm saying? Is this going to be the new norm? Are classes going to be held in the metaverse from now on? Are people going to date in the metaverse instead of the real world? Are people going to live in this virtual space instead of living in the real world? And those are the scary questions that I've been having on my mind. Are we going to get caught up with all this technology and spend so much time in this virtual space that we kind of neglect our own problems in the real world? As far as socializing with people or, going to school, like I said earlier, or going to work. You know what I'm saying? Are we going to let these virtual spaces dictate who we are in the real world? And, I like interacting with people in the physical world. I like going to classes in the physical world. Shoot, I even like working. I mean, not to an extent where I'm breaking my back, but I like going to work. I like to go to my workplace to work. I don't like working from home. I feel like that's boring. Working from home. Some people like it, but for me, I just rather go in and be around my coworkers or be around people. That's just me. I'd rather be in the physical space. That's just how I operate, and I learn better that way in a physical setting. And so I feel as if that sometimes this whole metaverse concept, I know the goals may seem lofty, but there's just a lot more that makes it sound too good to be true. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like I don't want this whole concept, 10, 15, even 30 years from now to replace our real life interactions with one another, or replace all these real life goods and services. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them to close down a Burger King because, oh, we got a Burger King in the metaverse, just eat in the virtual world. It's not the same feeling. Or I don't want people to like host weddings in the metaverse and be like, oh, well, 2 avatars just got married. Now they can meet up in real life and go from there or whatever. You know, I want to go see a real wedding. I want to be in the moment. I want to see one of my best friends get married to the woman of their dreams. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that in the virtual setting. I want to do that in a real setting. Even going to the movies. Shoot, as much as going to the movies in the virtual world is awe-inspiring, there is nothing that beats the true cinematic experience of physically going to your local theater and watching that film you've always been waiting to watch on a big screen. It's all about the experiences you have in the real world. I feel like that matters more than what you experience online or on social media or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand the internet and the real world are 2 different places. And you can't miss out on one particular world focusing too much of your energy and time on another one. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have to balance both of them out. Now, am I still going to enter the metaverse? Of course. I'm still going to explore new things and reach new heights, but I'm not going to let it overtake me. I'm not going to let it be an obstacle in my everyday real world life. You know what I'm saying? Because I have obligations. I have responsibilities in the real world. I have people that care about me in the real world. I can't shut them out and then just subconsciously put my mind into the metaverse, because then that would hurt my brain. That would kill my brain cells, and that would dumb me down. And it would make me into a person that I'm really not. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to lose myself in the real world. I want to find myself in the real world, but at the same time, I also like meeting people in virtual spaces because, like I said, you know, it's a form of escape. And I can't say this enough, and I'm sorry that I keep reiterating that, but it is a form of escape for people to go from their physical environments into a virtual space like the metaverse. It is an escape mechanism. But at the same time, you have to snap yourself back into reality, if that makes sense. You don't want to stay in there forever. Eventually, you're going to have to come out. You know what I'm saying? You can enjoy all the things you want to enjoy. You can step into this wonderful emporium of, you know, having this sort of utopian virtual space. Well, I wouldn't call it utopian, but more like an interesting space to just kind of explore. But you don't want to forget your important endeavors in the real world. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to neglect that. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're a parent and you have a child that needs your care in the real world, tend to them. You know what I'm saying? Don't spend so much of your time in the metaverse and your child is crying in the background, you know, in pain because he or she tripped and fell on her rib cage or what. You know what I'm saying? Tend to that. You know what I'm saying? The metaverse, it'll always be here. It'll be here when you get back. But you have to keep your physical life separate from your virtual life. That's all I'm going to say. And I can't put that in any better way. But aside from all that, like I said, it's a very broad, it's very complex, it's very obscured, you know. It's just something that you're just gonna have to step into it yourself to figure out like what it is to you. You know what I'm saying? It's only so much that I can tell you, but I'm just telling you based on my own experiences. But for you to fully experience it for yourself, you have to be that Alice who goes into the Wonderland by falling into that rabbit hole, as Morpheus puts it. You know what I'm saying? You have to be the one to take that opportunity to fall deep into that rabbit hole and see the Wonderland for yourself. You have to be the one to open your eyes and go beyond your own boundaries and go beyond that horizon for yourself. Just make sure that you don't trap yourself within those horizons. You want to give yourself time to breathe. You want to give yourself time to eat, to sleep, to talk to people in the real world. It's going to be okay. Trust me. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think this is the next revolution of technology. This is the next, peak of the VR and the AR industry. This is it. And I think it's gonna grow. I think it's gonna grow even more from here. I think it's definitely gonna expand. Like I said, the metaverse, it's one big place. Shoot, even Fortnite is a metaverse if you think about it, because you have all these different people from different parts of the world connecting onto this one online server, and you're all sharing that same space. You're all in that same space competing against one another. So yeah, the metaverse, it's already been around for a while, but I feel like it hasn't been pioneered in this sense to where you can put on a VR headset and physically inhabit avatars and interact with other avatars. It's almost like that movie Avatar, where, that human guy, I forgot his name, was it Jake Sully or something? See, yeah, that movie was so bland. I don't even remember the characters. But anyways, where that guy, he basically steps into this machine, or this casket-like machine, where he can remotely control his avatar body and have him interact with, the other creatures. And so that's what I feel like the metaverse is. We are humans inhabiting an avatar body, our virtual bodies, and we're interacting with other virtual characters. Not just characters, but real people in their virtual settings. And I think that's a really cool endeavor. But I have to say this for the last time, and I won't say it again. Keep the physical world and your virtual world separate. Don't come from the physical world into the virtual world and say, oh, I want to live in this virtual world forever. That's just not the reality that we're living in. I'm sorry to say that, but this is not Ready Player One. I mean, it is Ready Player One, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? We're kind of living in that moment right now, but you don't want to let it overtake you. You don't want to let it consume you. Space out the number of times you log in. Space out the number of times that you interact with people in the virtual world. You know what I'm saying? They have lives too. Trust me, we're all going to make it if we try. Just hold on. Just hold on a little bit longer. Tell your kids, tell your grandkids, tell your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, tell everybody, your friends. Shoot, tell the whole world your experiences of being in the virtual world, if you have stepped into the virtual world. If not, I encourage all of you to check it out for yourselves. But just remember the pros and cons that I discussed with you. And I promise you, we're all going to be okay. Just hold on a little bit longer, and I promise you, we will make it past that horizon called life. I'm Corey the Djokester, and this is another episode of You Know What. Till next time, take care.